to introduce to you the most amazing man, Dunn. He is one of the most inspiring people that I've met recently, and that's the reason why we are working so hard on the Bloomin' Women Festival. Everything that we're doing is working towards raising money for him and his charity, which is called Africa's Gift. This has been a charity that's been created by Ken, who's an ex-geography teacher here in Sheffield, who's gone over to Africa to work with local communities and local women, and is transforming lives across the board. It's absolutely incredible what he's doing. He's working on an environmental perspective, from a health perspective, from a socio-economical perspective. Truly, the impact he's having is unprecedented. This is the reason why we're getting behind him. Not only are we passionate about women's health here in clinic, but we want to extend that impact and extend our support well beyond the parameters of our four walls. We want to be able to affect those small local communities that don't have the resource or access or support that we have here too. And this is what Ken's doing. So take a few moments to listen, to reflect, and to hopefully get behind him in the same way that we're trying to as well.
Bizarrely, I'm a geographer, and why I've ended up being involved in cooking in rural Africa, goodness knows, but that's the quirk of life. Typically, for a meal to be put on the table in rural Africa, it involves predominantly the women going and collecting fuel wood, going and collecting water, and then bringing lots of wood and lots of water to a place and actually making fire. And the fire then has a pot on top, and the pot begins to boil. When it boils, the lady takes the pan lid off, she stirs the beans that are in there. It'll not be meat unless it's a feast or a funeral. She'll stir the beans, and then she'll top the pot with water. Top up the pot with water, because as she takes the lid off, steam rises, and as it rises, so does the micronutrients in the food. So she actually puts the water in there, puts the pan lid on, feeds the fire, and repeats, and repeats, and repeats. And that's pretty much where 3.5 to 4 hours of every day goes, plus the hours of collecting the wood and the water. So that process again, just making fire, boiling one pot of beans, taking the pan lid off. As the pan lid comes off, the steam goes in the air. With it goes the micronutrients in the food. She must stir the beans, otherwise they'll stick to the bottom and burn. She then tops the pan up with more water and puts the pan lid on. Every time she does that, she's diluting the contents of her food. But she feeds the fire, and she does that over and over and over. Yeah? So along comes an invention by a lady, for ladies in Lesotho, and it's this thing. It's a light puffy bag, and it's a cook bag, and this is made in Lesotho, the mountain kingdom of Lesotho. It's got the little flag of Lesotho on it there. Mountain kingdom of Lesotho. It's actually it's an insulated bag, and it's just extraordinary. You would not believe that something as simple as this and as light as this could be as transformative as it truly is. Because the principle now is not to continue putting heat into your food from the bottom, but rather, once the heat is in the food, trap it in the food. So what we do, this bag will not cook, will not heat your food first. So you must go back to the process of making fire, but you're only doing it to bring the food to the boil. So you're using a tiny amount of wood. The only water that you use is in the pan. This is a game changer for communities where water is a real difficult resource to get your hands on. So what we do is we bring the beans to the boil, and we just check that they're all boiling and there's none stuck to the bottom or anything like that. And it's actually boiling away. We see that rolling boil. Once the pan is actually piping hot, we put it in the bag and we lock it in. But we've actually gone one stage further, and we've actually got a big round piece of cloth. And I've got it a beautiful burgundy colour, my favourite colour for wine. We've got beautiful dark cloth there, because often the pan is black with carbon, with smoke and the burnt carbon on the bottom. Yeah. So we don't want the bag to get dirty. So once the pan is boiling hot, we simply place it in there. We fold this over so that the pan never touches the bag or the pad. We put the pad on the top, and then we draw it shut. We actually lock all of the heat into the pan and inside the bag. And of course it goes in at 100 degrees Celsius. And it doesn't just stay warm. It actually stays fiercely hot. It doesn't just keep the food warm. It cooks the food. And this is the thing that is almost unbelievable. And I'm an educator, so actually doing is learning. Yeah. So you actually go and you cook. And it's funny, me going and saying, "Can I come and cook with you?" into a community of African ladies, and they look at me and say, "What? You can't cook?" And I said, "Oh, I'm no threat to you then." and surely what you do is you put the beans in, and once the beans are in the bag, the ladies turn to you and say, "What do I do now?" And this is the beauty of it. And I say, "What would you like to do now for the next 3.5 hours every mealtime?" And it is this piece of insight that has been so powerful for us to actually go for the next phase, because ladies have been telling us that they've actually just had their lives completely changed, their working weeks completely changed because of a puffy little bag, right? And it is just extraordinary. And the crafts that I showed you earlier are a result of ladies who have actually now got time to be creative. They've got time to be themselves. They've got time to think, all sorts of really unusual consequences. But actually the cooking is happening in here. And of course people don't believe it until you come back. And so I tend to leave it for 4.5 hours, which is a long time. And it just sat in the corner of a hut. Actually, the round huts, because we haven't got any corners. But actually, we put them in the hut and come back 4.5 hours later. And we say, right, open the bag, but be careful, it's going to be hot. And of course, people are just so skeptical that they wouldn't believe that. So actually, they come and they open and they touch the pan, and often the men use the back of their hands. I don't know why. They burn their hands on the pan, and of course the pan is piping hot with food. Yeah, and we've done the science on this in the advanced manufacturing facility just off the Parkway. It goes in at 100 degrees Celsius. 5.5 hours later, it is still 70 degrees Celsius. Now, you wouldn't step into a 70 degrees Celsius bath, yeah? Or you'd step out pretty quick anyway, yeah? So it's actually cooking at a fierce temperature, yeah? And of course, you open the pan and the food is beautifully cooked. And it's been cooked not from continually heating the bottom of the pan, but just from actually retaining that heat once it's initially placed in there. What's also important to note is that actually every bit of the nutrients in the food are in the water, because the water that you start with is the water that you end up eating. And of course, that is just ladled with flavor as well. So, so this bag, we've introduced it, and we're desperate to actually get this scaled. And actually, we've actually affected thousands of lives thus far. We want to really impact millions, and that's where we're at. And it's hugely exciting. Because the people that make this are actually are actually stakeholders in the company. So my charity is Africa's Gift, but my parallel company, my social enterprise, is actually called Eternal Flame Worldwide, and Eternal Flame Worldwide's workers will receive a share of the profits when the profits come. Yeah. So well, this has been really interesting. I'm actually got a meeting later today with colleagues from the university, from Sheffield Hallam University, where we're actually assessing impact of the cook bag, and we go and we say a very open question. How are you getting on with the cook bag? And it's just extraordinary that ladies, and you've got these bright young students going, and they're met with these ladies, that have had lots of life experience and really tough lives, bless them. And they come and they throw their arms around these young students and they say, "Thank you for giving me my life back. Before this bag, my eyes were cloudy. I can now see more clearly." And I can't make medical claims, but actually listening to that, you think there's something about this here, right? Other ladies are saying, "I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe freely because I'm in the rondavels, the round huts, particularly in the mountain kingdom of Lesotho, where in winter, June, July, August, it's very cold, and actually you can get snow. You're going to cook indoors, and when you're cooking indoors and there's no natural ventilation, and you're cooking, on open fires, you're going to be inhaling an awful lot of toxicity, and actually, the ladies just can't breathe very well. Cooking with this, they're saying it's really helped with their breathing. There's research also that says it actually helps with hearing as well. We've also been hearing about actually smoke is a cause of premature births, underweight births, and can lead to some mortality, in childbirth. Childbirth in rural Africa is not for the faint-hearted. It's there are many more clinics now than there used to be, but actually the onus is upon the lady to come to give birth in a clinic. But of course, how do you predict precisely when that is? And there are no hospitals and stuff near the clinics, so timing can often determine, whether a child also is born with HIV, because if they're giving birth rurally, often the procedures are not in place to stop that infection, that blood transfer. So lots of things, but actually, one of the other things with this is actually it dramatically reduces the stress on the cook, because the cook will be the same person who actually goes and harvests the fuel wood and harvests the water. And actually there are incidences where the water and the wood are big distances away from where the lady needs to cook. We're talking and this is atypical for us to get our heads around, you know, in the UK, but we're talking hours. You know, we're talking like a 2-hour walk to, not for recreation, 2-hour walk to actually go and with a saw or a machete, whack some trees down, whack some shrubs down, and bundle it together, put it on your head, and then walk back. Often the ladies are doing that, and sometimes they're actually met by men in the hills who have got malintentions, and there are all manner of horror stories with regard to that. It's not something that actually impacts us when we go, but actually you hear about violence, on gender-based violence, and unfortunately there are many parts of the world where the man is just, you know, the boss, the alpha, and actually anything goes, you know, and actually it's awful, and there's I know that's something that working with Sheffield Hallam University in the law and criminology department and the social welfare departments, we're actually looking to do more work with community members, not just in Lesotho but elsewhere.
So the impact of the bag means that they don't have to travel, therefore they're not subjecting themselves to potential violence or potential mishap along the way. Absolutely,
and you know, and one of the things, and again, one of the things from the research of you know, from the bag is you know, if you're time poor, you can't do anything to mitigate against your you know, the events that actually unfold. But actually, if you've got time, then you can then start to use that time and do things differently. So the cooking is being done, but you're now time rich. So actually, instead of going for miles and miles for wood, you can actually plant your own wood. And this is what we've been doing. We've set up a conservation agriculture teaching farm, teaching community members that actually what we brought in way back when as the colonialists is actually not a good idea. The plough, actually churning the soil over, releasing all the moisture, releasing all the carbon also into the atmosphere. Rather cover the soil and actually keep the sun and the wind away from desiccating the soil. So we've actually been doing that, but we've also been growing trees that can actually be coppiced. You know, practice that's been used for many years in this valley here. You know, you chop it down, and instead of it growing one trunk, it grows multiple. You trim it back to 3, and then those 3 trunks grow 2 meters in a year. So you get 6 meters of growth as thick as your wrist. You know, just from one little you know, tin of cola kind of sized plant. So actually, and you can throw all your wastewater on that next to where you live, because you're actually, it doesn't matter what's in the water, you're not actually eating fruits from that, you know, so that wood can actually be grown. And what we're doing is we're saying to the youngsters, come and work in the teaching farm. We will give you one of these saplings to take back as a thank you. Plant it in next to your homestead, and then just throw your wastewater. You know what that does is it actually, you know, it actually de-stresses the harvesting. I mean, this fundamentally de-stresses the harvesting, because actually you have a dramatic drop. You have 80% reduction in water consumption and biomass use by using one of these. I go into the village, and I'm a bit of a showman. I go into the village and I say, I'm going to cook your beans just with these 4 sticks. I'm going to only this pan full of water and then this bag. And the community members say, what kind of magic is in the bag? So it's not magic, it's science that's in the bag, you know. But actually, you know, and you can see it's beautiful, you know. And actually, I'm after making these all over the place. And one of the things that's really exciting is actually is turning waste into the insulation. So a lot of people associate cannabis with sticky stuff that you get in an oil, or you smoke, or you have a funny cake when you're in Amsterdam. But actually, I'm interested in the cannabis stalk, because actually you can peel the stalk, and when you peel the stalk, you end up with a fiber, and that fiber is highly insulative. It's like rock wool, only it's very easy to touch. It's pretty odorless, and it is very, very heat retentive. And this has got many, many applications. We can actually weave those, we can actually make that into a very, very fine textile, a hemp textile. So it's got the appearance of linen. And I would love to make my bags out of hemp, both the interior as the insulation, the fiber as it is, but also I'd like to get this spun and woven into a fabric. In the tropics, the waste of choice that I'm using is actually the coconuts, and it's the coconut that you sit on the beach and you drink from, the green jelly coconut that sometimes, the young coconut. All of that coconut is fiber, and basically what you do is you just chop it into 4, and then you rip the fibers apart, and you use the fibers as the insulation. Now, I've actually seen a machine that's in India that I'm wanting to import into Dar es Salaam, and you can actually put 1,000 coconuts an hour into this, and it's just about the size of a cement mixer. It's not a big machine, but you can plug it into a solar array as well, so you can actually run it from the sun. You put the coconuts in, and it pushes out 2 products. One is a cocoa peat, so you can actually moisten that and make that as a soil conditioner, and the other is the fiber, and the fiber goes in here. That machine, get this, that machine costs $4,500 US, right? That's not much, yeah? That's my big wish. My big wish is to actually get that machine, because actually right now the community members are ripping these apart by hand, and that's hard work. And what they're saying is that is slowing. Doesn't matter how many people are on it, it's still a very, very tedious and difficult job to do. But actually pop them into this machine and getting 2 products from it again, is going to be the way forward. And then actually buying the material in bulk is again what I'm seeking to do. I'm seeking to actually get sufficient funding to actually get 200 meters of material at a time, and that's gonna that's kind of 4,000 quid. So all of these things kind of actually add up, but actually ultimately this bag, it doesn't just save lives, it actually improves lives, it actually improves the environment, the local environment, and actually it reduces the amount of CO2 being released into the atmosphere. I reckon my calculation is closer to 2 tons of CO2 per bag per year. Now we've been warned against being too grand in the claims, so we've ratcheted that back just to 0.5 ton. It's way more than 0.5 ton, but we can confidently say that 1 bag in the hands of community members in rural Africa will actually reduce their emissions by 0.5 ton per bag per year. That's massive when you actually think of the potential that we have for scaling this. I'm talking about millions, because actually another statistic that's worth mentioning, and I'm an educator, and when I first saw the smoke, I went to my students and I said, right, we're going to suspend the national curriculum. We're going to suspend the national curriculum just for a little minute. right? You guys, I want you to research incidents of death from smoke, from nothing other than cooking daily meals. And it's staggering. And this statistic is still true in 2023, which is absolutely diabolical, right? That a person dies every 20 seconds. 20 seconds. That's 3 people a minute die from nothing other than inhaling the smoke from the fires upon which they cook their daily meal. And then you look at how many people across our planet actually cook on an open fire. And yet the world's mad, you know. The world, every third person, 2.6 billion people are cooking on open fires every day. And that's not, you know, throw another prawn on the barbie, you know. It's actually, it's through necessity. And we live in a world, you know, where we've got greater access to a mobile phone than we have a toilet, you know, and running water. You know, we've got, we really do need to become more world aware and actually listen to the warning sounds that are out there around climate change, because I've been working in Lesotho for, this is now my 24th, 5th year, and actually 24th year, and actually the weather patterns, you know, the climate throughout the year is very definitely changing, and you know, community members are not able to grow where they previously were growing. And what does that mean? It means, you know, and this is the message that I give to the young learners in schools and in university, is that the key word of your lifetime is migration. And you see how xenophobic we are when people come knocking on my door. Can I come and live here? Well, you know what? They're coming to live where we are because we've destroyed where they've been living and working for, you know, for generations, you know. And it's our profligate use of energy and fast fashion and all the nonsense of mass consumerism that actually has led to, I'm on a political broadcast now, but yeah, you know, so actually what I would say is, you know, you can see with the grey hairs, I've been around a bit and actually been in Africa for that time. God gave me 2 very large ears, you know. I'm atypical as a man. I'm a good listener. But actually, you know, you go and you listen to wants and you listen to needs, and there are 2 different things there. But when you listen to the needs, this is the evolution of all of that interaction. This is the smallest intervention with the biggest effect. And it helps global environment, it helps local environment, it helps nutrition, it helps health, it helps women's empowerment, it helps community cohesion, it helps relationships. Can you believe that this bag actually helps relationships? How can that be possible, right? Well, actually, if the lady is not completely knackered and completely stressed out by actually, you know, going to the mountains, bringing this, bringing that, stirring, coughing and crying with smoke, she's actually got more time, more energy to do what? To spend on the bloke, you know? And so there's less domestic violence, there's more community cohesion. So maybe that, you know, there are unforeseen benefits to this bag. So yeah, I want to make millions of them.
Sure. So what is it that we collectively can do to help you?
Come to Africa. Come to Africa and actually come and be with the community members and see yourself, right? How these are made. Come and make them with the community members in Africa, and then come and cook with them, you know, and actually see, and then come back with Africa in your heart, you know, and actually have a burning desire like I have to actually make millions of these. And actually the model, you know, is actually And my website explains it. It's a very modest website. It's eternalflameworldwide.com. And that website says, what do? We transform waste ethically, socially, locally, and globally. And the vision for this is not a small one. The vision is to actually make these bags in local communities by local women for local women, and then replicate it. Not making them in China and then selling them all around the world and all the travel. Yes, it's more complicated because you've got different groups of staff, you've got different machinery requirements in different parts. But actually having a local workforce that actually saturates that area with bags and with knowledge and understanding of what the bag can do is massive. I'm very, very keen to work with the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Cross groups within countries, and I've got that network. What I need is the bags, right? So if people can't come, then actually put me in touch with people that have got some coin, right? If they can help me get the machinery, right, to actually scale production, because we can do this with 2 ladies and a Singer sewing machine, you know, and somebody with a knife, you know, splitting coconuts or peeling hemp stalks. But actually, if we're going to do it at scale, and we're going to do it with real dignity, and we're going to do it with real purpose and produce volume, then we need a machine for the hemp. That's currently £17,000, 70,000 euros, so nearly 16,000 pounds. The coconut machine is £4,000, so it's €4,500. You know, and then I need to actually be able to buy the material in bulk. So those are the givens, you know, and then actually once we've got that, the sale of the bags will then be able to keep things sustainable in terms of local wages and an ethical wage. You know, it was really interesting when I went to explore the textile wages in Lesotho. There's an agreement with Taiwan, America, and the Lesotho government on making high-end sportswear, $50 Reebok tops, and the ladies are getting paid an absolute pittance. I said, I want nothing to do with those rates of pay. And I went to the local community trust and said, what do you get? You know, as a working wage, as a living wage. And those are the wages that we want to pay. You can't make something, you know, green and fantastic and all the rest of it, and then have a slave workforce. Sure. You know, it's just complete nonsense. So it's ethical, it's social, as I said. It's each person, when we sell these, are going to be beneficiaries. So at the moment, you know, we're actually we're in startup phase. In all honesty, you know, we're actually making hundreds and hundreds of these. But actually, I want to make thousands. I want to make millions, and I actually want, and I don't want to go down the road of loans. I've actually taken early retirement, or I've not taken early retirement. I've taken my pension, my teacher's pension, early, and I've spent it on this, which is not what a pension should be spent on, right? But actually, I've got faith that actually this is going to work, and yeah, it's a dangerous thing being an optimist sometimes. But actually, this has to work. Mm-hmm. This has to work. You know, there's no plastic. This is you know, you can actually use the actual coconut shell, the hard coconut shell inside the green coconut as a slider. This one is leather, so it wouldn't appeal to vegans. But actually, you know, it's actually you can actually have 100% biodegradable bags that are amazing during their lives. Yeah.
Amazing. And how much is one of those?
So we are our price point is £35, right, for one of these bags, and there are 2 markets. So £35 is the market for those that have got disposable income. Mm-hmm. And here is the rub. Our target audience is the hardest to reach in the world. We're specifically targeting the poorest community members in the world, right? And this is why I'm really promoting this, through two entities, the charity and the entity that actually are making them and employing people. Because once we have bags, they need to be financially accessible. And this is where my groups come in. This is where you can come in and actually bring a group of 10, 12, 15 people, come and have an amazing experience in Africa, and it will never leave you. But actually come with a bit of a war chest and say, right, here's some dosh. Every one of those bags is going to have a 90% subsidy. So that when we go to the communities, we do the activations, we do the cooking demonstration, we can then say, these bags should be 35 quid, but you can have them for a fiver. A fiver is still a lot of money in a rural community, and often it can take maybe 3 months to pay. Yeah, there's a reality check for a minute. Yeah, but actually, we do not believe in the big I am. Here you are, poor person, have a bag, aren't I great? Right? Because there's no dignity in that. We believe in a conscious purchase and dignity at that transaction. And if we say these bags have been subsidized by people's fundraising because we recognize that money's difficult to come by, then what you get is you get real buy-in. You actually really do get a very strong sense of, I want one of these. I'm prepared to spend my earnings, from maybe selling extra food, or maybe it might be part of a pension that someone has got. Often the men have come back from the mines in South Africa, and if you earn a pension from being a miner, it's well earned, I tell you that, right? But actually, income is not strong. Yeah, unemployment is massive. This is the other thing. The best thing that we can do is employ people, give them a real sense and actually employing people to make something which is as amazing as this is actually, it has to happen. It has to work. It's just too compelling not to, that's where I'm at with that one.